Hey, true believers. Chris Matt coming at you with Spawn WildCats number 2. I told you that we would be going back. I just had to wait for this thing to get in the mail. And it actually clears up a lot of what we went over on issue 3 about the WildCats just now coming to the future and the realization of what's happened. So before we even get into it, the print date on this was February 1996. This is the second part of the Devil You May Know. The creators are writer Alan Moore, penciler Scott Clark, inker Sal Regla, letterer Tom Orzganowski, colorist Leanne Clark. And what kind of made me laugh is here at the end, it says, "Catch the cats." I mean, why should Hellspawn have all the fun? The animated adventures of the WildCats. Airing now on the USA Network, Saturdays at 11 and Sundays at 10. So they did make a cartoon out of the WildCats, and the theme song is catchy as hell. Like, it's nowhere near like the level of X-Men the animated series, but it's kind of got a really cool rap rock to it. And if you want to watch it, I mean, obviously, you know, it's 2021. You can't really watch it on the USA Network on Saturday and Sunday anymore. It is on a streaming service called Tubi. Tubi is free. You don't have to have an account. I mean, they encourage it, but you don't have to. And again, as I just said, it's free. And they usually about a minute or two of commercials. But it has the entire WildCats cartoon on there. It has the G.I. Joes, the G1 Transformers. So hell, for free, with a couple of commercials, I'm going to suffer that to watch these awesome shows. The Wildcat cartoon was corny, but still fun to see animated versions of Grifter, Warblade, Voodoo, Maul, Zealot, and Hadrian. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head now. Oh my God, it's not Patriot. What's his name? Spartan. So anyway, yeah. So if you want to check that out, go over to Tubi. Now, diving into the second part of the Devil You May Know. I love how Alan Moore sets up the dialogue and how the art team just adds this desolation feeling. So let's go ahead and dive into this. New York, 2015. Yeah, they really should have pushed the future up just a little bit. But anyway, the new flag lunges and snaps like a starved, mean dog on the wind. There's bad meat, petrol, something like wet copper. The Great Crow Banquet at Fifth Avenue and the cremation fields of Central Park. Huge drifts of blowfly husks on Broadway. This is the torture marathon. These are the boulevards of smoke and mourning. This is Devil Day. That's how you suck someone in, with some of these just desolation drawings. And as it was established in the first issue, that Al Simmons, our Spawn, becomes this evil character named Itmus in this reality. So I like how we see all this burning, and the focus is the flag, and then when it's finally brought into focus of what it is, and it's Spawn's image. That's how you draw people in. And then you get the establishing shot of your team. You see the new Zealot, you see our crew, you see the Elder Grifter, and so they're kind of giving them the lay of the land, saying we need to get back to our base if we can. It's essentially going to be, what you call it, a chore in and of itself. So I like that even before we see what the threat is, we see this jagged dialogue saying, "Hoo-hoo! Do we see spandex? I think we do." Now, another thing I want to point out is it says "Wanted Dead, Backlash." I'm sure that's a nod to something. I'm not super versed in the Image universe. I know a little bit of like Cyberforce, a little bit of what was Rob Liefeld's team, Youngbloods. I knew a good amount of Gen 13, Spawn, WildCats, but the rest of them, not so much. And I kind of wish that I did. Like, I've never read a Pit comic in my life, which I would like to. So if you guys have any you want to donate to the club, let me know. I'll review them and throw them in our grab bags. But Backlash, I've never heard of. So if this is a nod to something, let me know what it is, because I kind of feel like I'm missing something. So anyway, back to the narrative. Like I says, do we see spandex? I think we do. And then this is just an awesome picture. This is Vindicator and what was the other brother's name? Vaporizer. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Violator's brothers were introduced during that Violator miniseries. We went over issue 1, and they weren't really revealed. They were just kind of in this POV where we were looking through their eyes, and that was some rough reading. But one thing, even though these characters are evil, one thing that I like about the Flebians, or whatever they're called, the Violators people, is they're crazy like the Joker. They're like, hey, you ain't kidding. It's one of them hero guys with the lumps on their chests. You want to read him his rights, Brother Vindicator? Coming right up, Officer Vaporizer. You have the right to remain silent, but our guess is you'll probably scream your head off like everyone else. Actually, that's pretty much it. And again, just the twisted nature of how the art team draws them, absolutely fantastic. As I've said in past reviews of comics during this era, this was the early days of digital art. So everything was still mostly done by hand. And it shows, and it just looks freaking-tastic compared to a lot of books that we see now where, they use 3D models instead of trying to really understand anatomy and taking traditional artwork out of the equation, thinking of dynamicness, like let's say film or photography. How would you frame it to make it look dynamic instead of flat? That goes back to Stan Lee talking about drawing the Marvel way. How you say you could have someone walking into a room, but if you change the angle of the shot, it looks more dramatic. Or if you read the How to Draw the Marvel Way book, which I wish I still had that damn thing, there's one where they're showing J. Jonah Jameson straight on, in a sense, going to slam his fist down, like, I want pictures of Spider-Man. But they did it at a Dutch angle. Like, they redrew it at a Dutch angle, and it looked more dramatic. You're seeing more up in Jonah's face. So again, here, look at how they don't really distinguish who's the Vaporizer and who's the Vindicator or whatever's here. But look at how him and Jeremy Mall are going off against one another. Freaking gorgeous artwork. And they're immortal, so you can't essentially kill them. So I like how Cole, Grifter being Grifter, is like, hey, if these things are just big indestructible bugs, I can really cut loose for a change and go for some big damage. He's like, ow! Say, didn't I kill a bunch of you guys already? And we'll get into what that means in a minute. Now, Maul is just not tolerated, and he gets large. If you watch the WildCats cartoon, he goes, it's time for Maul to get tall, and you're just like, oh boy. So it's corny, but you've got to watch it. It's one of those ones that's like good cheese fun. I mean, heck, my son right now is 2, and he enjoys watching it with me, so it's safe to watch with your kids. Anyway, moving on. Look at that! Maul smashing him into the ground. And this is something they don't reference in the show. When Maul gets large like this, he starts to lose cognitive thinking. He just starts to become a big brainless monster. I think this was kind of their way of working the Hulk into this book. So it takes Pris, who's really close with him, to talk him down, bring him back to who he is. She goes, it's over, big guy. Yeah, it's okay. I'm over it. Sorry about that. It's just that whole brain-body ratio thing, So again, we went over the X-Men 178 where there's like maybe a little bit of action with a lot of talking. There is talking, but damn, the action is so good. The artwork is so damn good. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Just give me a minute. I want to make sure Junior here doesn't come crawling after us. Ouch, you can't stop that. I'm a cop. And you see his brain nailed to the ground. He goes, I mean, really, this is seriously offensive. Section 5, impaling an officer's head while in the pursuit of his duty. It just ain't done. What about Columbo? What about Starsky and Hutch? Nobody ever nailed the brains to the floor. So for even more younger kids, Starsky and Hutch and Columbo were old school, like 70s and early 80s kind of cop shows. I would suggest going back and checking them out. I'm sure you can find clips on YouTube. Now here we find the Black Razors, who are essentially kind of working with the remnants of the WildCats and whoever else to take down the Itmus, which, as I said, has been established as the future Al Simmons. The only thing that I think in terms of the dialogue that gets kind of hokey is how they distinguish one another. So Cole comes up and talks to Santini and he goes, I'm the 96 model grifter. And it gets kind of, as we see in issue 3 that we did, where they're like, okay, 2015 Zealot and 95 Zealot. Stop that. Just say old and new. You don't need to add dates. It just, A, dates the book, and B, just sounds dumb. So that's probably my only real bitch at Alan Moore. But here's where we're introduced to Tapestry, which is the old Zealot. And she took over one of the Coda's magic abilities. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, and I'm not going to go rooting for it. I guess it was the original Tapestry, who's a Coda warrior, I'm assuming. Like I said, I'm not super versed in the Image universe. But even the young Zealot says, by hectic scythe, you're me. How did you become Tapestry? The original Tapestry went mad. She's been in a vegetable state now for years. I succeeded her as magic user when my career as assassin was terminated by an injury in '05. Others fared worse. Hadrian, for example. So I like that the action's happening in the background, but in the foreground we're getting sort of this foreboding of the new or the old Spartan. And you can see how the young one's more hopeful, and this one's just like 3 words advice from Hadrian the 10th and last Spartan. Watch your butt. What went wrong, Cash? Too old for the job? You're supposed to bring back the head of the Etmus, not these rookies. So, he's still firm, like Spartan's supposed to be, but you can see that he's a little more embittered. And the young Zealot talks about how she couldn't bring herself to kill Spawn in the past because he had not done anything. And that kind of goes back to like the Minority Report saying, is it right to kill someone before they've had a chance to even think about it? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to go check out the movie. I think the book's supposed to be better, which is usually the case. I need to read it. But anyway, of course, here we get a little bit of dialogue like Warblade and Voodoo are like, well, what happened to us? We see Grifter, we see Hadrian, we see Zealot, and everyone's kind of beaten around the bush. They're just kind of like, they play it off. I don't remember exactly what they said. They just say it's hard to explain. So here we get the attack of the Troika, and they were Wildcat villains. There were supposed to be 3 of them. But in this gorgeous, sexy splash page, we see that Spawn has fused them together into one disgusting amalgamation. I'm having a hard time saying that word. Let's just say combination, just for the sake of argument. And the artwork, good Lord, look at this. You don't get quality like this very much anymore. Beautiful, beautiful work. And so they tell, they're like, we have Void back with us, meaning Adriana, our current Void. They go, 9, they're vanishing. Only the one called Void could do that. And she was employed otherwise, last time I saw her. If you want to know what happened to Adriana, Void, make sure to check out our review on issue 3 that we've already gone over. So I'll make sure to throw that up here in the review somewhere for you guys to click on, because what happens to her and a lot of the Gen 13 characters, it's disgusting and heartbreaking. At the same time, it makes for some good storytelling. So here they're sucked into like a safe house where the Tapestry tells Void to transport them. And Warblade and Void kind of start, or not Void, Voodoo kind of start to explore. And the new Zealot's like, Cole, aren't those 2 getting awfully close to the memorial gallery? Oh no, I'd forgotten this was down here. Guys, wait up. And Voodoo's just like, oh my God, Reno, are you seeing this? Yeah, it's a tomb, Pris. This whole vault is a commemorative tomb. And it's ours. So we see here that when everything started to go south, Warblade and Voodoo were 2 of the first to go. The older Cole and Zealot try to explain how they did their damnedest to try to get back and rescue them in the Halo siege that started all of this, but there was no way that they could have saved them. And one thing here is they explain it through dialogue. Okay, cool. But I feel like, and I don't know if this was because they were pressed for time, but I sort of wish that they would have given us flashback pages instead. That would have been a whole lot more interesting to show and not tell. Because, you know, people standing around and talking, it gets a little boring. As if they would have used the, the third-party narrator boxes over some pages showing what happened, that would have been great. And I mean, this book's already violent enough. I mean, why not show what happens to two of our favorite Wildcats? Which begs the question then about what happens in this timeline with Adriana and Jeremy. And I like how Tapestry is just like, you're all alive. I'd rather not say more. Again, we find out in the next issue. And again, it's heart-wrenching to see what happens to some of your favorite characters that you grew up with. And with that said, that's what leads to the attack on the Epmus's stronghold, which is the Chrysler Building. For whatever reason, this is supposed to become the new capital of America, I guess, because Cyberforce is his name, or Dart something, I forget. But anyway, he fell trying to protect the White House, and then Spawn took over the Chrysler Building as the focus point of this new hellscape future. So guys, that was Spawn Wildcats #2. Fun read. A little bit, I felt like some parts slowed down a little bit in terms of standing and talking. Again, instead of the old grifter explaining what happens to Reno and Pris, it would have been cool to cut back and have some really well done art pages showing what happened at the Halo siege. And then again, having that third party or third voice narrator having Cole's dialogue going on, and then cut back to the future, just like they do in movies and TV shows. That would have been an excellent addition to this book. So I don't know if at the time they were forced, or what do you call it, they were pressed for time, which this is a 4-part book. They could have made them a little bit thicker than a regular page, like just to add that extra one. That wouldn't have been so much. I mean, these books were only, at this time they were starting to kind of inflate a little bit. These were $2.50, but I mean, that's nothing compared to now, where you buy a book and it's like $5.99, $6.99, or like Venom 200, which was $10 for a nothing burger. Anyway, so overall, great artwork, relatively interesting story, and now I can't wait to go over issue 4 and just finish this whole arc, because it's been relatively interesting. If you guys have enjoyed this comic, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you could pick up a copy. If you have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Spawn bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.